Hi, I'm Bruce Mazzie, and welcome to This Old Car.
Today in This Old Car, Bruce Mazzie heads for Potomac, Maryland, as he meets up with Buzz Potter, who's been collecting classic cars for over 60 years. Then he'll stop off to see Old Car John Krapinski, that is, a master craftsman in the restoration of classic cars. After all that, Bruce pays a visit on the National Capital Region Early V8 Ford Club as they show off their stuff in Brookville, Maryland. We're here in sunny Brookville, Maryland to see what the early Ford V8 Club's all about. In 1932, Ford introduced its first L-head V8 engine with 221 cubic inches and a whopping 85 horses, better known as the Flathead V8.
We're here today in Brookville, Maryland, at the annual meet of the National Capital Region of the Early Ford V8 Club of America. There's a mixture of antique cars and street rods here, young and old people, men and women. It's interesting that we're in Brookville, Maryland, which was the capital of the United States for one day, when in 1812 the British burned the White House. President Madison came out here and fled. So the place is famous for its history, and we're celebrating that by maintaining motor history. Let's have a look around. As I said earlier, this is a hobby that's dominated by men, but it's not exclusive to men. Actually, the National Capital Region of the Early Ford V8 Club, I have here the president, Peggy Garish from Damascus, Maryland, and Floran Sardillo from Hampstead, Maryland, the vice president. Why don't you tell us what involvement the women have here, Peggy?
The women have a lot of duties in this club. We are the backbone of this club. We get our guys going. We are the ones who say yes when they come to us wanting money to go buy these cars. No, all kidding aside, no, it's primarily we help our husbands out, our boyfriends, our significant others, and we appreciate what they do, and just be there when they want to go to a show or need some help.
I want to ask Tommy Lumpkin from Silver Spring, and he's got his 38 Ford four-door sedan. It's an original car. Nothing's been changed. Tommy is also an expert in the tools that go with the cars, early Fords in particular, and a lot of I'd say an expert in detail. We're going to give you a PhD in detail today.
Okay.
Why don't you tell us about this car?
Well, the car was never used in the wintertime. The original tags on it that we issued to it in '38, and it was jacked up every winter from November until May and sat on blocks, so I was never seen a snowflake. And the person that had it, I'm not responsible for the way it looks, so the person that had it just took perfect care of it. This is the original upholstery and original plastic. Everything inside is original. Nothing is reproduced, except I did put a floor mat in it. It's so brutally original. The headliner is in excellent condition. Well, when you bought a new Ford back in those days, you got a set of tools, and there they are, jack and pliers, screwdriver, 3 wrenches, and somehow they stayed with the car all these years.
This is Josie O'Donnell from West Friendship, Maryland, and another demonstration that there are women in the hobby. Josie not only owns this beautiful 36 Ford Cabrio, but she used to drive cars in races. So why don't you tell us about your history in cars, Josie?
This Roadster was the cheapest thing that Ford made. Henry made these during the Depression. But my involvement in cars has dated back to when I was in high school. During that time, everybody lived and breathed cars. Well, it just stayed with me. And consequently, at one point in my history, I bought myself a 1965 Corvette. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I bought that car brand new. And I used to drag race that both on the streets and on the track. and I found that that was extremely exhilarating. And I have had a love for cars ever since I was in high school. Well, once we got married, it turns out that both my husband and I love cars. Now we have different models and years of cars that we like, but this is the kind of car that he wanted, drove, raced, and wrecked when he was a young man. So consequently, we got into the hobby and we have just both thoroughly enjoyed it. It has added an entirely different dimension to our lives.
Thanks very much, Josie. I'll let you get back to work.
Okay.
Now this is Bob Haight, and this is his 1929 Model A Ford Roadster. I'm told that there are 500,000 Model A Fords still on the road. Bob's a local guy, but Bob, why don't you tell us what you have here and what you've done?
Interesting thing about this car, it's been in the same family since 1931.
Wow.
In other words, the guy that I bought the car from, he used it as a hot rod back in the 50s when I was in high school, and then he partially restored the car back in the mid-80s, and then I finished the job in the last year. It's basically a standard Model A, 4-cylinder, 40-horsepower engine.
And Bob, you said this was in the same family since 1931. Does that mean the Haight family?
No, it wasn't my family. The guy that I bought it from in Leadville, Colorado, he had it. They bought it as a used car. It was 2 years old, and like I said, he had it restored back, or partially restored back in the mid-80s, and then I bought the car from him 2 years ago.
Thanks very much, Bob. Doug Holder has a 40 Ford, which is a work in progress here. Doug, why don't you tell us what you're doing with this car?
Basically, I'm getting ready to paint it next. Mechanically, it's ready. It's got the it's 302 2.4s. Underneath, it's got a 86 Lincoln automatic with overdrive that gives you cruising speed. It's got a 391 Plymouth rear, limited slip posi. It's tilt steering out of a Ford van with a Mustang steering wheel, and basically that's about it, other than painting it next and then putting the upholstery in it.
Looks like a wolf in lamb's clothes. That's what it looks like to me. Lois is in charge of registration at this event, and I can't tell you how much organization goes into these things and how much someone like Lois has done to make this happen. Each registrant gets a goodie bag when they come in, and there are a few things in the goodie bag, and maybe Lois can show us what they're giving away.
Okay, well, when people pre-register, let's start with that. With pre-register, you get an envelope, and in the envelope, you get things for the day, particularly the dash plaque, which everyone is interested in. A lot of car collectors collect these and keep them, put them on their walls, and so forth. Then we give each person a goodie bag, as we call it, or a registration bag, and it has things that are solicited from companies, car-related sources, the police department, and so forth. Just show you some of the things that are in here. This is a coloring book for the kids, and there's an old cars newspaper in here. I see a lot of advertising things, bags from the Maryland State Police. I know there were flyers from the Maryland State Police. Newsletter from our car club, so that people that aren't in our club can learn about our club and hopefully join. Just lots of advertising things. We usually have things in there like keychains and pins and things that are come in from advertisers.
Thank you very much, Lois.
Thank you, Bruce.
We'll be back next week to see how Old Car John's doing on the restoration of that 1955 Crown Victoria. Then we've got a few vintage Mopars to check out, and we've got a few more restorable old rust buckets to take a look at, proof that they're still out there. Thanks for watching This Old Car. Bruce will be back next week with more great classic cars, fact-filled interviews, and restoration tips. Until next week, I'm Chuck Baker for This Old Car. Thanks, John. We're going to be stopping back a little bit later. But before we leave, we're going to take a quick look at some of the restorations that you've done in the past. When we come back, we're going to Brookville, Maryland to visit the local chapter of the Early Ford V8 Club of America with over 9,600 members worldwide. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.